Welcome back. This is us over here, and this is on Ice Sailor. I think that's pretty good because that's exactly where we are. Couple of foot either way, not bad. Well, we're leaving Howth Marina early in the morning. The weather's not too nice outside. It's building up cloud ready for rain, and we've probably got a little bit of wind we've got to go into as well. We're going to go across to Malahide Marina. Malahide Marina is only about 5 miles away, and they're not full up. Unfortunately, this place is, and that's why we've got to get out. Malahide will have lots of spaces. We're going to go head into wind, I think, for a little bit. But I don't think this will be a sail. I think it'll be more like a quick motor to get over there, to get comfy again, because we're both still tired from our crossing yesterday, and we could both still do with a break, although we've had a sleep. It's not far from Howth to Malahide. Just here is Howth. We're going to make our way across here to the fairway buoy, and Malahide's here. So it won't take us long. So that's exactly what we do. We bang the motor on and we get out. We go inside Island's Eye. It's just a little bit fresh out, but only because we're pumping into it. We've got 19 knots, but we're making probably about 5, so it's probably only about 15 knots of wind. But it's cool, it's damp, and we just want to get there. This is the approach to Malahide. Looks like a great big opening, but down there's sandbank somewhere. So my advice is check the depths, and check the depths going into Malahide as well. Always head for the fairway buoy to go in. It can shallow out going into Malahide quite a bit. In the distance over there's Lambay Island. Well, we're coming across, there's plenty of water. It takes the pressure off you and you don't feel like you got to work as hard at watching the depths. There's the fairway buoy if you can just spot it there. And we're heading into the channel just after it there, going in for those 2 first marks, port and starboard marks. Now the channel's well marked with port and starboard marks all the way down to the marina. There's the marina down there. But it's ever so tempting just to go across that open area, but it wouldn't be a good result. Maybe very shallow keel might get up there, but otherwise you want to line this buoyage up. You want to get in the first set of buoys, red and green, and you want to stay tight in all the way. It is quite a narrow inlet when you see it on the chart, and it's quite a narrow inlet when you see it when the water's gone out. So stay directly in the middle of them. The good thing about going in and out of Malahide's inlet is the actual way in and out's quite safe, as in it's got no sideways current really. You could have a breeze pushing you on the side, but ordinarily the boat just goes where it's pointed. Until you get into the marina. There we are, comfortably over there. That's a visitor's berth that we're on, that whole end pontoon is. We were, however, sorry to see this building here is no longer a restaurant. But the town is full of restaurants, cafes and places to eat, and is absolutely lovely. That's unlike the weather on the second day while we were there, which was very inclement, and we didn't really want to go out and play very much at all, but it did get better in the afternoon. On our departure day, which we were there about 3 days in total, the weather was beautiful. We had light easterlies and we were going to plan on sailing up the coast, northwards up the coast. These fingers that you come into, by the way, they're metal. So you need to be well fended out to protect yourself against them, because if you touch these, they will mark your boat. And there's a couple of areas that will get your boat as well. There's a couple of aggressive nuts on the end, and that sharp piece of aluminium that's bent round or whatever it is. Any of these bits will get your boat, so be fended up. We met a fellow sailor just before we departed called Derek. We had a good catch up on the back of Swallow, and he left us with some fresh croissants so we could enjoy them on our trip. So let me say thanks for them, Derek. This is the visitor's berth here, and when it ebbs you get a little bit of a current comes across here, so beware of that if you're coming in when it's ebbing. Now one of the nice things about departing Malahide is you've got lots of time, because you've got the little narrow inlet to get out of that you came in, which means you can gather fenders and lines, and you can do it at a leisurely pace because you're not going to be out into the sea straight away. Well, we've got the promise of light easterlies, a force 2 to possibly 3, which is on a broad reach, should give us a couple of knots, and we only need a couple of knots because we're not really bothered where we get to. We just want to drift up the coast and see where we get to. There's not too much tide either to worry about as you go north from Malahide. You seem to get into a big open area where there's no tide at all after a certain point. You can see there's a little bit of flood coming in against these buoys as we're going out. We're using this little bit of flood on the outside because when we get out, the flood will be travelling the same way as us. So it'll last us for a bit, maybe up to the skerries if we're really lucky, but I'm not sure yet. I'm skiving, doing a bit of camera work on the bow, but I'm leaving Lisa the good job of steering us through the voyage to get us out, which she does grandly. You can see the marina in the background there, with some puffy rain clouds above it. So I'm glad we're leaving it if the rain's staying there. Once out of the Malahide inlet, we find that it's really beautiful out. The sea's got a very slight on it and there doesn't seem to be any wind at this point at all. 2 other people have come out at the same time as us. That's them there, it's Bob and Joe, they're heading north too. But I don't think we'll be keeping up with them because they look like they're a lot quicker boat than we are. And just like I said, we won't be keeping up with them. There they go now, and that's probably the last we'll see of Bob and Joe for the whole trip, I should imagine. We're just starting to pass Lambay Island on the inside. We're travelling north, due north, straight up this direction. The first possible stopping place is here, the Skerries. After that, there's a little port here at Clogherhead called Port Oriel. And after that, we're all the way up here by Carlingford or Kinkeel. Well, our light easterlies have turned out to be light northerlies, and the people travelling south are making full use of it. I think he'll be off to the Howth regatta. That lighthouse over there is called the Rockabilly Lighthouse. Good name for a lighthouse if you ask me, but I don't know why it's called that. And these are the Skerries. Behind them on the headland there's a little port, and you can drop your hook there or go against the wall. It's a good little stop, but we've got plenty of time left in the day. It's not long we've been out here. We're still hoping to get a bit of a breeze, but we're not getting it yet, so we're still motoring along. Derek's warned us there's a lot of lobster pots, so we're keeping a good eye out for them. We don't want one of them round the prop while we're motoring. On the chart plotter it gives us 10 miles to go before we get to Clogherhead. Well, that's only 2 hours at this rate. We've only got 3 or 4 knots of wind, but we got 5 knots over the ground, which is quite good. But I'm afraid it's the donkey doing all the work at the moment and nothing else. Tide's gone, there's no wind to talk of, so it's just engine. I didn't know such big ships come in and out of the River Boyne. There's a port down there called Clogherhead or Drogheda, I'm not sure how you say it, and it's obviously a very busy place. But just after this port, that headland in the distance down there, that one, I reckon that's Clogherhead, and I reckon that's where our little fishing village or fishing port will be hiding away behind it. In the distance, if you look further up, there's all kinds of ports ahead of you. Carlingford's up there somewhere, Kinkeel's up there somewhere, Strangford's up there somewhere, Ardglass is up there somewhere. In fact, there's just loads of more ports up there somewhere. But here we are, and we're less than a mile away, so we'll have to see what Clogherhead's got to offer. I can't see anything besides rocks at the moment, but as we come round the corner it becomes visible there's a wall there and it's a breakwater. Well, as you got close enough you could work out what was what, and you could see there was a bit of a bend in the wall, and we got in round the back of the wall and there was some moorings and we picked one up. Now it was all nice and pleasant there, but we couldn't get in touch with any harbour master. We tried by phone and we tried by radio. We never had enough chart work to turn around and tell us how safe it was here or not safe it was here. So we decided just to stop and have our tea and then move on afterwards. If it were neap tides we'd have been more liable to stay the night there because I'm sure the conditions were right for it. We've got a tiny little bit of our easterly at the moment and it's just given us enough to motor sail at a decent pace. So now we're flying over to Carlingford for a change, or I think that's where we're going. We've got plenty of sunlight left and plenty of daylight left. This is the Dunray buoy. It's made for big shipping and not us, but it gives us a sight to look at while we're passing in the middle of nowhere. Now Clogherhead to Carlingford Lough is about 10 miles, so it's about 2 hours to get to the loch. But you have to travel down the loch a little bit, probably about 5 miles. But we're going to time it so that the water's just started going in, so that when we go down the loch it'll be quite quick. Or at least that's the plan, and that means we should be in by 8 o'clock, which we don't consider as too bad. Now the water's an absolute mill pond now, and there's nothing at all going on. As we close up on Carlingford, I can see what looks like a lighthouse that sticks up. I think it's called the Holbolan Rock Lighthouse, but I'm not sure. What I am sure of is you put it to port, and it looks after you that way. So we're going in the Northern Passage. It's buoyed this way and it's probably safe this way. I'm sure you can get in on the southern side with a little bit of local knowledge, but we haven't got that local knowledge, so we're staying safe. Now the buoyage down here is shipping buoyage, so it's big buoyage, you see it for miles away. And the reason it's shipping buoyage is ships come in and out, and if they're coming along when you're going in or out, you need to creep just outside the buoyage to let them past. The buoyage is a little silhouetted when you look into it because of the sun. When you look back you can see the colours of the buoys, but when you look forward they almost turn black. So shapes are important at this particular point in time. And the buoyage just does meander a little bit as it goes down Carlingford, so you have to be keen to look at which is which if the sun's in your eyes. So again, we leave the job to the professionals, and us camera people will just play with our cameras. And we can get a nice picture of Holbolan Lighthouse as we pass. This is Greenall Point. The tides are quoted here at this point. As you close on the marina, there's one more buoy there in the distance. It's a port hand buoy, and it protects you from Carlingford bank, especially at low water. There's the marina over there, and you're very tempted just to turn to port before you get there. You can see quite clearly on the chartlet the shoal continues quite a distance ahead of the bank's ending, and you can run aground in any of these areas on most vessels, I'm sure. You have to phone them out of hours and it'll divert to one of the mobiles ordinarily, because you won't get anyone on a VHF. The reason I say that is it's unstaffed after a certain point, but you're still welcome to come in and pick somewhere up. The leg that's attached to the ship's the central leg, and that's normally where they like you to pick up the visitor's berth, so go straight for that. There's the way in, a big entrance so you can't miss it. All pontoons verge on that floating ship in the middle there, so that you walk up to the ship and then you walk up through a gate. So it's secure here as well. They're the officers, and the facilities and toilets around the back down there. There's a nice pub and restaurant up the top there with a good view of the marina while you eat, and in the distance down there is the road to Carlingford, which is down here. It takes about 15-20 minutes to walk. Couple of pics from the way into Carlingford. I'd like to thank you all for watching as usual. Thanks. See you next time. Bon voyage.